Everybody, I'm Stacey with Stacey's Organizing and Decorating for Life. I'm here to help you organize your thoughts and decorate your perspectives. So today our topic is going to be on life, death, and disappointments. So if you like that that's our topic today, please hit the like and subscribe button below. Today's topic comes from my conversation with Jennifer. Once again, I love talking with Jennifer. We've probably known each other about 15 years, maybe longer, and so we both are in recovery and have watched and seen each other grow and live through so much, and everything. So it's really cool, and that's what we develop in recovery. But what we were talking about was, the relapses, when people go back out after we've sat in meetings with them and identified ourselves as addicts or whatever, your recovery program is, if you are in recovery. And if you're not in recovery, please hang in here, because this is also for the people who deal with people who are in recovery. It's very disappointing for you. This is for the family and friends also, because it's disappointing for you as well when somebody chooses a different direction that we feel is self-sabotaging, right? So it can be painful, and sometimes people want to take it on, but we're going to talk about that. But before we get started, I want to remind you that I'm not a doctor. I'm not a psychologist, psychiatrist, scientist, any of that. I like that stuff, but I'm just a life coach. And while I'm here to give you valuable, down-the-earth, soul-felt information that you can relate to and understand, as a life coach, I have a webpage called StaceyForLife.com. And on this webpage, there is a description of the services that I provide as a life coach, being that I deal with addiction, codependency, and grief, but not exclusively with those things, because underneath those things lies a desire for healing and healthy relationships, as well as development of spiritual and soul consciousness. So really what I do is I help people look at the things that are no longer serving them, those old tapes, the things that maybe they weren't even aware of, that were burying their soul. And so we dig that stuff up so that they can feel comfortable again in their own skin. And then we can just begin again on whatever they have discovered as their dreams and goals and desires, those that were long forgotten. So at the end of this video, maybe I'll offer up a prayer or meditation to once connect you with that soul that's underneath everything else. So I also write a blog, on my webpage. Back to my webpage a minute. As I write a blog, I committed last year to write a monthly blog. So I'm very happy with myself that I did fulfill my commitment in this past year, and I look forward to the commitments and the goals that I set for next year, and I hope you do too. So we're going back to the issue, though. The issue at hand is when we get to feel disappointed, and many people have felt disappointed on a variety of things in 2020. So when we're feeling disappointed, how are we looking at that? Are we taking it all on? Are we thinking that it's our fault and all of this? So when I'm talking to you about I deal with addiction, codependency, and grief, there's no, it synchronistically fell in that order for a divine purpose and plan. Because first I dealt with my addiction, but after 5 years of, staying clean, people still got on my nerves. There was still people I didn't feel like treating me right, So then I went to therapy, and she told me that I needed to work on my codependence. So she sent me to work on codependency. So then I worked on codependency. So I have 23 years clean, about 18 years, working with people on codependency, or working on my own codependency, then with others. And I still continue to work with others on codependency, because codependency is just as subtle as addiction is. It's another form of addiction, and it's very subtle, because all of these things are things that we sought outside of ourselves to help us try to protect ourselves. But in essence, really underneath all of that was to heal. Because underneath addiction and codependency is grief, per, Melody Beattie and Dr. Drew. So there's 500 different types of grief, I have told you all before. So many people this year have been grieving. Many people may be discovering codependency. They've never heard of it, or they heard of it like I'd heard of narcissism, but they didn't really know what it was, and maybe they've sought out what to do about their codependency. I'm working with a lot more people on codependency this year, probably than any other year, and then there's also the obvious is addiction, but maybe people didn't realize that they were addicted before because they could go out more, but maybe they've resorted to having to stay home, and maybe it's, they're saying they're more addicted. So whatever this can help you with, because the thing is with all this stuff going on, there is major depression. There are people dying. So that the main course and the main cause of this video is to remind us to be kind and not to judge other people's problems, because we don't know what other people are going through. I know so many people going through so much right now, and then I see people being petty. And if you've lost someone you dearly love, the thing that will drive you the most crazy is when you see people being petty and not realizing that any day, especially if you've lost a loved one tragically, the biggest pet peeve is knowing that you could lose anyone any given day, even before the pandemic. And so we don't know that the mask, that wearing the mask is going to save us from our last day, because you could get hit by a car with your mask on. So it's really about being nice, being kind. And it's not about co-signing when our friends go out, So I'm going to go revisit that again for just a minute. So we were talking about, when they go out, what do we do? And she and I it doesn't make us want to go out, because we both realize that, this is, it's much larger than us, this disease now, and we're not going to challenge our higher powers. We don't want to cut off our soul connections, and after talking to her, I asked a couple of more friends, because I wanted to get different perspectives than my own on it, because my thought is that, I really don't have a dog in that race when somebody else goes out, but I've worked on my codependence too. So here's the thing is, when people celebrate their victories and their time that they've abstained or the hard work that they've done on their self, that's for them, and some people tell me, oh, I couldn't have done it without you, but that's not true. They could have done it without me. It was just more fun for me that they did. And it was an honor for me to get to be a part of their life. So this is what I'm saying. When people do go back out, I still love them, because we've still had an intimate soul connection, because we've shared with each other some of the things that we could share with nobody else, So I still love them, and I treat them with the utmost respect and dignity, because when people go back out, I don't think that they lose their recovery. I think they've still got it. They've still got their principles and stuff. What happens is like one of my friends, she had 10 years and then she went back out. And what they realize that they've got all this recovery in their mind, and then they're going back out and it's hell for them. It's really, they've disconnected from their soul. They've get disconnected from their people. They've disconnected from so many things. And it's really hard for them to enjoy their using when they do. So there's no judgment, because what they do is they keep us clean. They keep us in the right mind, because when they go back, people that we love, adore, and respect, and then when they come back, it's like a homecoming. We're glad, it's like welcome back, and we say no shame, but still they feel shame. So the next part of this is to not be shaming people when they come back. Don't ask them 10 million questions. Let them share as they want to share, and just continue to tell these people they're back. You see, I'm saying this from experience. I had a friend that went out and come back, and I was just so glad they were back. But we went and had a lunch after the meeting, as sometimes people do, and then they might have been glamorizing because they're young, and thank God we're getting people younger and younger into the program so they don't have to cause as much damage. You know what I mean? So they were young, and maybe they were glamorizing it a little bit, but we have to understand we've gotten to mature in the program. That when I got in the program, I was 14 in a 30-year-old body, and so it's like they don't have that maturity yet. So maybe they do, but we just have to keep telling them, we're so glad you're back. And that's what I would do, because I felt bad. I went home, and I felt bad because I heard these people giving this person a hard time about going back out. And like I said, they were maybe trying to make it sound good, because we have a saying in the program, you can't save your ass in your face at the same time, but maybe people do try to save their ass in their face at the same time. That's not our business. Our business is when they come back, to be there to welcome them back and not give them a hard time and make them feel any worse than it might already feel. I don't know. It might feel great. It might feel like a victory to come back. I don't know. But we can't know. We just have to be there and be that welcoming person, just like the newcomer when the newcomer comes in. So, you know, I just want people to understand that, to have compassion. And even when it's not a program of recovery, you know, to just keep praying. Now, sometimes you have to set boundaries with people. So now we're getting into the coda part, the codependency part, because, you know, I had 5 years, like I said, and then I had to understand that it wasn't the other people out there that was causing me to do this or causing me to do that, you know. And I had somebody, even in a meeting yesterday, say that, you know, sometimes other people cause people to go out. People will say other people cause them to go out, and sometimes if they're not a long while in recovery or not in, you know, people who have some time's back pocket, they may rationalize and justify that. See, that's the problem with codependency. In codependency, sometimes we will try to rationalize and justify our behavior and the behavior of others. And, you know, again, we're seeking something or someone outside of ourselves to make us feel valued. You know, and usually that's the case, is we're looking for something to make us feel valued, but our value has to come from within once again. So all it boils down to is your happiness and your value and your healing have to come from within, because then we get into the grief, you know, and the grief is the fear that you're not going to be loved, or that we're not going to be loved if we don't conform to this way or that way. So now we're dealing with conformity, and we're talking about these masks and things. And you know, like I say, if you're meant to get hit by a car, and wearing a mask isn't going to help you much. So I'm just saying, be kind. I'm not saying to go without mask. I'm not trying to make light of the mask, because there are many people that are compromised. And in fact, I'm saying to respect those that are compromised with the mask, but for people not to have expectations that are unreasonable for other people out of their fear of being compromised, that we still have to come up with solutions, you know. And that's one of the things that if you have been in a recovery program that, you know, we talk about a lot, is getting out of the problem and into the solution. And I've mentioned that I wish government did that too. So maybe, you know, some people feel less compromised if things are outside. So maybe we could, you know, make sure and invite and encourage people that are feeling, you know, unsafe in a building where people may not have masks on but are sitting at a safe distance. Maybe they would want to have a meeting outside, and they could, you know, have the meeting outside, or ask the people that don't wear masks. Maybe we can compromise to where people that want to wear masks can have their meeting, and people who don't want to wear a mask, you know, but sit a safe distance, can have their meeting or such. And, you know, because we're hearing a lot about this too, is that people are missing the human touch. So that's why we're dealing with suicide, overdose, and all of this, because used to there was this fellowship, and fellowship is hard now, you know, for whatever fellowship, whether it's church fellowship, whether it's, you know, a 12-step recovery fellowship, whatever kind of fellowship, it's been kind of put on the back burner a little bit. But, you know, there are solutions. This is the thing, is that we can be a solution. We get to be creative. And these times are the most creative times, you know, to where we can create these solutions. As all systems are breaking down, you know, and we're celebrating Christmas right now. And here's my thoughts on Christmas, is that, you know, oftentimes the churches used to get really crowded on Christmas and really crowded on Easter. And, you know, I don't affiliate myself with any type of religion, but, you know, we can't help but think about Jesus at this time of year, you know, whether you're Christian or not Christian, whatever. You know, we know that Jesus was a man who lived and walked the earth, and he was a decent man, and he tried to teach us some cool stuff. So I sit here and I've oftentimes wondered, with all the crosses, you know, you know, and that people are doing it symbolically. They want Jesus to remember that he died on the cross for them. But I sit here and think, for myself, as a, you know, do I want people to remember how I was born? Do I want people to remember how I died? Or do I want people to remember what I did in between? And how did I make people feel when I sat there with them? You know, and I think that that's what I want to be remembered for. And like I said, none of us really know when our last days are. So I always try to encourage people. And like I say, when people are grieving, the last thing they want to hear about is some petty bullshit. They really do. When they've lost a loved one, you know, that it was just had their heart, and they're trying to heal their heart, and people are bitching about these little things, you know, and any of us know when we've lost someone near and dear to us that, even when we lose friends that we grew up in school with, it makes us feel a little bit vulnerable and like we're not as invincible. But when you lose someone really close to you, for some of us, like for me, I'm like, I'm not compromised, but I'm also not afraid of dying. That's not, I've had to learn that what's on the other side, is much more peaceful than this side. But what I'm doing on this side is just as important, because I need to, one of the things that I do every day is I pray for peace. And I believe that Jesus, whoever you revere him to be, was the Prince of Peace, and so it's about how can we be peace-filled. And some of us have to pray to find that peace, especially in these times, whether you're grieving, whether you're, struggling with codependency and dependent on other people and they just let you down time and time again. And if you're dealing with an addict, that's probably the case. And, you can't control any of that. So while I say this to be compassionate, I'm not saying to be a doormat. So that's also what you learn in codependency. It's like I said, what's my business, God's business, somebody else's business. So you pray for these people because we oftentimes don't know what somebody else's business is, whether they're in the program or not in the program, and we get into acceptance. We have to deal with that on grief too, because sometimes we lose people and we don't understand why we lost them, and so we have to think, well, maybe, they had a plan with God. Their relationship with God was different than our relationship with God. And what we wanted might not have been what was for their best and highest good. We don't know. And we can drive ourselves crazy trying to figure it out. And many people get pissed at God because of this. But you get pissed or you get closer, I think. And so it doesn't help to get pissed at God for it. It really doesn't. So what helps is to be lifted is that we have to have a power greater than ourselves to lift us up. Whether, you're dealing with the grief and if we're relying on that power or whatever level you're dealing with, but if you're relying on that power too, instead of making stuff up when somebody's mean to you or says something to you, you can just dismiss it and we don't have to hurt anybody any more than they're already hurt is what I'm saying. We don't have to retaliate and hurt or react to people when they're hurt. So if we're mature, that's what we would choose to do, is not to hurt people any further than they have to be hurt, and to remember who we are in our true and divine essence. Whether you're Jewish, whether you're Christian, whether you're Buddhist, whatever you are and claim to be, Hindu, any of those, they're all beautiful faiths, and they all can teach us so much. But I think the bottom line is that connection to God or the higher power, whoever you want to call them. They say many paths, one God. And that is love. So we can come from fear, and our fear is a reactive state, and love is our peace state. So we can be in presence. With all the systems breaking down, it would be cool. We can't go in churches. You can't go in churches anymore. You can't go in schools anymore. You can't go in, stadiums anymore. You can't go. People paid crazy money to go in stadiums that they could be using to help other people. And I'm not saying because some of the people had money to help other people, because some of those people really did. I know people that helped other people too. But I'm just saying to make the best of a bad situation for yourself. I'm not judging you because you went to the stadiums. I'm just saying, there's other things that we can do. We can get creative, like I was saying. And these churches, man, what if it were like, if we were, paying attention to the way that Jesus' life was that he just went on this hillside and that hillside. He wasn't for these big-ass churches that had to run all this stuff, and needed all this to operate. People just hung out and listened to him teach, So, and then the schools is that people have the freedom now to be teaching consciousness. People have been saying they took prayer out of schools as well, but no, they didn't people can pray wherever they want to pray. If you want to pray, you can pray. Jesus also told people you're supposed to pray in private. So I pray all the time. And you know what? These face masks, I can be talking to myself, I can be praying, and people don't even know because I got a face mask on. So I hope this has been helpful and humorous, and that you can see more possibilities and creativity instead of seeing more doom and negativity. So I hope that this has been helpful, and I'm not going to take up all your time. Your time is precious and it's valuable to me, and I hope that this has been helpful, and I hope that we can just remember whatever somebody's dealing with, we don't have a clue. We don't know. And I tell people all the time, breathe, pray, and say, I don't know. So if someone's being mean to you, just breathe, pray, and say, I don't know, once again. I mean, you can use that for everything, for if you're obsessing on something, or if somebody's being mean to you or whatever, just breathe, pray, and say, I don't know. Because also another thing in codependency we talked about was making shit up. Because sometimes when we have a low value or low self-esteem, somebody doesn't say this to us, but we will make up a story to reinforce that in ourselves, and we don't know that we're even doing it. That's why it's important to have a sponsor and to have somebody call you on your stuff. So this is what I'm saying. When we say cosign in recovery, that means somebody's not just going to be saying, I know, no wonder you behaved that way. No wonder you went back out. Because nobody's going to tell you, no wonder you went back out. But they will tell you, welcome back. I'm glad you're here. And that should be all that they need to say. Because, it's not about that. And it's not about berating people. It's not about, even when they have a codependent relapse, it's not like, it's just about trying to find the solutions and helping people play that tape through, and stuff. So this is what I had to say about that is, it says, I'm not going to try to control one's insane behaviors. So if you go back out, I'm not coming to fetch you and have you come back in. I'm not going to try to make you feel sad that you went back out. I'm not trying to project anything, any fears onto you, because I don't know what your journey looks like. So I'm not trying to do all that, but know that I care about you. I may call on occasion, see how you're doing, or I might just wait for you to text me. Or, we could have lunch, because some people are fine, I don't know who gets to be okay. And then it says, I'm not going to try to control one's insane behaviors, and I'm not going to try to console one's insane behaviors. So I'm not going to co-sign is what all that means. But I don't have to be mean either. So I hope that this has been helpful. We're going to do a slight meditation before I finish, okay? So take some deep breaths in. Breathe in and out. In and out. In and out. All right, y'all keep breathing and I'll start talking. So as you're taking these deep breaths, take a step back, a step back, a step back in time. Keep going back. Breathing in and out. Now try to imagine yourself as children. Some of you had good childhoods, some of you not so much, but try to think back to a time that you were really extremely happy. Were you playing outside? Were you the type of child to get up in the morning and go outside and play as soon as you could on a Saturday morning? Remember the way that things smelt, the fruit trees, if you had fruit trees, or the bushes, or the flora. Remember, most of all, how you didn't have to really make judgments on people, that you were just able to be and to feel free. How free that felt to just be in that childlike spirit. So breathe in and out. And know we didn't have the troubles back then that we have today. And we don't know how long these troubles are going to last. And we don't even know what adjustments we're going to get to make. So now I want you to think of a time as you're coming up, more forward, more forward, more forward. Think of a time when you've adjusted and adapted to something. When there was something in your life that maybe other people were dealing with that you were able to confidently or look at and problem solve. Remember how validated you felt that you didn't have to have other people agreeing with you. And this can be happening at any time other than even right now. Remember how it felt to accomplish something and to get past something. And as you're breathing, sitting here in the moment, coming back to this present moment, feel how free it feels just to be in this moment with a deep breath in and a deep breath out. Just sitting here, you don't have to feel any fear. You don't have to feel any worry. You have a choice to just feel gratitude for this breath. Knowing that this breath comes from the air and it's filling your lungs. But not only that, it's taking care of all your other vital organs in your body that keep you alive, that allow you to talk and speak with people and to communicate, and that you can communicate kindness. And then think about your feet. Think about, the bones in your feet. Think about the cartilage holding your bones together. And think about the epidural and the skin, everything, the tissues, all of the things that overcome those bones, and how divinely well everything is put together, that you're able to stand up and walk, and then also your arms and limbs, that they're able to reach for stuff, the bones in your hands, that they just know when to bend and grab stuff, and how infinitely connected that you are, that you don't even have to think about these things, that you do think about it, but you just impulsively get to do these things. And the things that your hands could reach for, the help that you could extend and offer, without touching somebody, because I know people are concerned about that. But if you want to touch somebody and you have confidence that your immune system is how you can get permission first before you do that, but how we're able to reach for those things. You can reach for things to gift somebody else. It may be a small thing. It may be, a token of some sort. It may bring somebody so much happiness. Maybe you could give somebody a flower, or even just buy the person behind you a cup of coffee. Or what can you do? What can you afford to do? What can you afford to give? Maybe it's just saying hello to people randomly. So think about that. Think about all the free gifts that you have, all of your senses, that you're able to see the beauty in nature around you, that you're able to smell the Christmas, the pine trees or the candy canes or coffee or whatever it is. Think about what you're able to taste, even if it's just candy canes or what have you. And think about what you're able to hear. What are you listening to? Are you listening to music or something that makes your spirit happy? So with all these things that we still get to do, stay in your body, because that's where the answers are. Remember, you are divinely you, and that you don't need other people to approve or not approve, but it's good to have respect for your fellows. So I hope that this has been helpful to you, and I hope that you've been able to calm down, slow down, and to know that you can do this practice at any time. Og Mandino wrote a book, that one of my friends gave me during a heartbreak, and it was called The Greatest Gift of All. And it reminds us that we're able to still function and perform and to do and speak and think and act and be. It's about words, actions, and deeds. It's that what we use to plant seeds. So what seeds are we planting? So get back in your body and take those deep breaths and really be authentic with yourself and ask you what you can afford mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, financially. Get creative. What is it that you can do to make this world a better place? I'm going to read one more thing to you before we go. So come back to your body, come back to center. It says 444. 444, opening the door. Okay. So let me read you this right quick. As we close for Christmas, I want to wish you all a Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays, whatever you're choosing to celebrate. Okay? It says, the magical dust of Christmas glittered on the cheeks of humanity ever so briefly, reminding us of what is worth having and what we were intended to be. This is the author and Texas pastor, Max Lucado, in his book called God Came Near. So, I don't know what your belief systems are or whatever, but isn't that beautiful? Whether you just try to tweak it to yours, because that's what I do. Is I love all the different belief systems, and I take what I need, and I'm not arrogant enough to think that God just meets people at one place. For me, I believe that God meets everybody where they're at. And so if you're hurting, remember that you can reach out to me. I'm willing to give you 30 minutes of my time. I know that I've reached out to people. Somebody just this morning on when the social medias was saying that they didn't want to live anymore, and I asked them if they needed to talk. Because I'm willing to give people 30 minutes of my time. Know that somebody loves you and cares about you, and not to make any permanent decisions over a temporary circumstance. We don't know how long this is going to last. I know it's lasted longer than more people are comfortable with, and I can't tell you that it's going to be over, but I can tell you that you are valuable. If you're breathing and doing all those things that I just mentioned in the meditation, and if you're watching this still yet, remember that you can reach out to me. I've reached out to other people. Some people don't want you to reach out. Some people want help and some people do not. So we can't impose our thoughts and beliefs on other people. But if you need help and you would like 30 minutes of my time to try to get compartmentalized, to try to get organized, to try to get things where you're not so overwhelmed, then please feel free to email me at staceyrenee@gmail.com or to reach out to me once again at staceyforlife.com. Or, I'm on social media, Stacey Renee in most places. So again, I wish you a very happy holiday if you're celebrating or not celebrating. Because look, I grew up one faith, and then we decided to be another faith, and we didn't celebrate. So sometimes, or not just sometimes, all the time, it's what's in here. What is in here? Because I've known people that celebrate that are beautiful, and I've known people that didn't celebrate Christmas but celebrated something else, and they're beautiful too. And I've known people that don't celebrate this at all, and they're really honest. They're really awesome in giving people as well. They've done wonderful, miraculous things for me too. So it doesn't matter. Everybody's a soul. So I hope that if you take anything away, to be kind, compassionate. We don't know what people are dealing with. We know that, if you're overwhelmed, somebody else is overwhelmed too. And I'm not saying you made them overwhelmed. I'm just saying that we're all divinely connected and we have choices. So if you're calm, you have an ability not to take somebody else's being overwhelmed on, but to offer them calmness. That praying for peace. I do that twice a day at least. So I hope this has been helpful. I wish you much love and peace, and I look forward to connecting with you again next week. All right. Thank you so much.